The land of the dark gods is home to many horrors waiting to be unleashed upon the mortal realms. The forces of chaos come in all manner of terrible forms, as nightmarish reflections of their patron deity. It should be no surprise, then, that from the deepest shadows of Khorne's great kingdom ride a most ferocious pack of beasts, part demon, part machine, steered by only the most devoted warriors of the Lord of Slaughter. These are the Skullcrushers. They ride to war with one singular mission: blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne.
This video was sponsored by Creative Assembly, proud makers of the much-anticipated Total War Warhammer 3. For the uninitiated, gameplay involves taking the reins of a huge variety of factions led by unique, legendary lords, building up your base of power on a turn-based grand strategy map, and duking it out with your enemies in real-time battles. Warhammer 3 is said to be the climactic capstone of a fantastic trilogy which has brought the universe of Warhammer Fantasy to life like never before. Game 3 in particular will explore the edges of the old world and beyond, with factions like Kislev, Cathay, the 4 Chaos Gods, and more. It's an exciting time to be a fan of Warhammer, so check the link in the description below to grab yourself a pre-order now and enjoy the ride.
Let us open the dreaded Liber Malefic to learn of what is written about these monsters. And to tell of the Juggernaut, its like has never been seen. It was a mighty steed of groaning iron and brazen steel, a thing of living metal that stood taller than a man and roared with the furies of 10,000 dead. Its massive head was part hound, part bull, part incarnate soul of bloody hate. As it moved toward us, we saw its countless riveted plates forged in dark fires, bound with runes of unearthly spite. As it bared its brazen fangs, we lost all heart and turned, fleeing to the night. The Chaos Wastes are a vast expanse of frigid plateau and desolate windswept plains far to the north of the old world. They teeter on the precipice of existence, saturated by magics that pour unending from the rents in reality at each pole. It is a spiritual place, a realm of the gods, warped and twisted by their arcane power, yet still very much anchored by the material plane. The climate here is uncompromising, even in the best of times. Death from famine, predatory animals, or simply from exposure is an ever-looming threat. And yet, many human tribes still inhabit these lands, eking out a harsh existence as hunters and gatherers, forming tight-knit communities that cooperate and war with their neighbors in equal measure. But amongst the tribes that inhabit the Chaos Wastes, there are those that thrive on conquest and bloodshed. And it is to their patron deity Khorne that they chant their infamous battle dirge. The Kurgan are one such nomadic people, and though their worship is not exclusive to the Lord of Murder, he is the most actively venerated of the 4 Chaos Gods, as his blessings translate most effectively to the hunting of man and beast. Before the coming of Sigmar Heldenhammer and the establishment of the Empire, before even the raising of the great bastion of Cathay, the mighty Kurgan had already carved out a massive nomadic realm for themselves in the eastern steppes, and used this vast domain as a staging ground for their invasions. The long centuries spent near the poles caused these Kurgan and their splinter tribes to mutate, becoming swollen with muscle, growing taller and stronger than their normal human cousins far to the south. But these boons came at the cost of cultural and societal stagnation, and over time, many of these tribes devolved into savage, barbaric clans driven solely by the promise of war. This corrupting, violent influence is even more pronounced amongst the tribes of the Scaramore, the most esteemed of Khorne's berserker kin. They are a particularly warlike people, renowned and feared for their martial skill and brutality on the battlefield. Over the centuries, raiders from these disparate clans have pushed southwards with ever-increasing ferocity, testing their mettle along the shorelines of the Sea of Claws, ravaging deeper into imperial lands and the kingdoms of the Far East. These raids form a core component of survival in the far north, bringing back precious resources, slaves, and wives, but perhaps most importantly, bestowing blessings from the Chaos Gods, allowing a clan to attract new talent and forge alliances they wouldn't otherwise have access to. To kill, maim, and burn in the name of the Blood God is to receive his mark, and those blessed by the Hunter of Souls are set on the path to ascension, to elevation in the eyes of Khorne as they seek to become the greatest of his mortal champions. The road to becoming a champion of Khorne in an elite martial society all vying for the same prize is fraught with danger and hardship. His followers favor the practice of winnowing, separating the weak from the strong in a constant stream of gladiatorial contests and bloodsport. For many tribes, like the Scaramore, those aspirants who seek to ascend Khorne's ranks are subject to punishing rituals of conditioning and worship, eating only the flesh of those they slay, drinking only the blood that flows from their victims' veins. With minimal rest, day after day, night after night, they are forced into the fighting pits in a pure struggle for survival until only the most violent and determined of their number remain. For these aspiring champions, there is nothing more desirable than defeating another herald of the Blood God, as there is no quicker way to draw Khorne's gaze and interest. Those who prove themselves continually through strength of arms are marked by their patron, and while these mutations might manifest in any number of ways, their purpose is always the same: to create a more intimidating, more ruthless, and more efficient soldier. For his part, Khorne does not play favorites atop his throne of skulls. He cares not from whence the blood flows, only that it does. In this way, a vanishingly small number of tribal warriors may ascend to the rank of champion. However, even this is not enough to be granted a steed and become a Skullcrusher. As always with Khorne, you must claim that right. And thus, our aspirant will have to venture out to tame the beast. If one were to venture to either pole and peel back the veil between worlds, the first thing they might see is a vast volcanic landscape weeping blood. This hellish realm is the domain of Khorne, home of the Juggernaut. A Juggernaut is a beast more machine than flesh, resembling a demonic mechanized mix of snarling hound and stampeding rhinoceros. It is a several-ton war machine bred solely for battle. Its molten core powers a crushing mass of riveted plates and hardened brass. Its mouth is lined with razor-sharp spikes. Its hooves are built to grind infantry to dust. All the while, its piston tendons and smoke-wreathed ligaments power it to surprising speeds. And yet this mount is no mere machine. It has the predatory instincts and intelligence of a wolf, the aggression of a tortured bull, and the hunger of a starving bear. Though they might roam the endless steppes north of Cathay's great bastion, they originally hail from Khorne's domain, and it is in this cracked and desolate wasteland that a Skullcrusher is born. Juggernauts are prized mounts, their ferocity legendary, their battlefield application self-evident. But to successfully tame one requires exceptional willpower, great skill, and a good deal of luck. They are intensely territorial, often charging on sight, and the far north is littered with the corpses of those who foolishly tried to break these brutish beasts. Violence is the only way to do so. For those chosen few who survive the ordeal and successfully undergo the trial, bringing a captured Juggernaut back to the mortal realms earns these newly formed Skullcrushers looks of awe and reverence, granting power and stature within their tribe. Together, mount and rider form the bulk of Khorne's heavy cavalry, trampling all who stand in their way. When the banners are called, and the ever-chosen musters the armies of Khorne to war, it is the Skullcrushers that ride in the vanguard, ever on the hunt for glory. Let us now take a moment to review the equipment of these fearsome knights. A Skullcrusher of Khorne is defined by three important elements: the hulking, protective mass of their Chaos warplate, the snarling, enraged Juggernaut they ride, and their fanatic, berserker devotion to the blood god. They are most often recognized by the ornate crest that bridges the top of their helmet, carved in the symbol of their patron. And in battle, they tower over the opposition. Thanks to their heavy armor, Skullcrushers are virtually impervious to small arms fire, only ever threatened by overwhelming numbers, well-aimed artillery, or particularly powerful spells and ensorcelled weapons. And even magic is no clear avenue to success, as Khorne's hatred of mages is legendary, and the surface of his champion's warplate is etched with runes and wards to protect against sorcery. Those chosen few are blessed with a set of chaos armor. It may be acquired through trade with the slave-driving dwarfs of the Darklands, or otherwise gifted by the dark gods. But to wear such an honored gift is no trifling matter. The user is often welded within, forming an unholy union of man and metal, an eternal prison from which their hatred only grows. When riding to war, these elite monstrous cavalry wield axes, cleavers, enchanted hellblades, and jagged lances, weapons with reach that allow the rider to reap blood and skulls from astride his mount. But what the warrior can't reach, his Juggernaut surely will. When the hellish pair make contact with an enemy on the charge, both beast and rider fall into a vicious rhythm, demonstrating shock combat in its purest, most unadulterated form. However, the insane fury and fearlessness that allows these regiments to charge headlong into the teeth of enemy battle formations time after time is also their greatest weakness. Their bloodlust often overwhelms their reason, leading them to overextend and isolate themselves in the midst of their insatiable glory hounding. Even the momentum of a Skullcrusher charge can be slowed and broken across a disciplined, well-trained, and well-armed formation. And once the initial storm is weathered, the shock tactics of Khorne often result in catastrophic losses for both sides. The ferocity and martial skill of Khorne's Skullcrushers has reached near mythical status in the realms of men. Few images evoke such fear and loathing as the telltale beat of thundering brass hooves and the molten outline of the blood god's chosen hammer charging home. Their battlefield exploits are well documented, having served in the vanguard of Khorne's armies for millennia. In the year 1396 of the imperial calendar, a Skullcrusher contingent led by Valkyr the Bloody broke through the northernmost stronghold of the Dwarf Empire and overran their positions, catching their final stand in a brutal pincer attack that left no survivors. The remains of the Karak's defenders had their rib cages opened in the shape of a raven and were left on the ramparts as a warning to any dwarf who might think to reclaim their hold. The fortress would lay dormant for centuries. And in the Great War of 2302, Skullcrushers were used to great effect against the combined armies of Magnus the Pious and Tsar Alexis, until the ever-chosen Asavar Kul's ill-fated assault at the gates of Kislev. Though they are unsubtle, as their name might imply, the Skullcrushers of Khorne have a long, illustrious history of leading the charge for the ruinous powers, cutting a bloody swathe through the ages. Dauntless in the face of adversity, with fiery disposition and a twisted sense of chivalry, they are amongst the finest warriors in the blood god's arsenal and a true terror of the mortal realms. We hope you've appreciated this foray into the darker chapters of the Liber Malefic. Let us know what other units from Warhammer Fantasy or history that you would like to see covered next. A huge thanks to the patrons for funding this channel, and to Indie Pride from Milk and Cookies Total War for bringing this episode to life with his fantastic writing. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content and check out these other related videos. See you in the next one.